Okay, so there was an interruption there, as you could tell, and that was a phone call coming in to me about 5.5 hours ago, and that meant that I had a duty to perform, and after that another one, and after that another duty, and I think after that another one, and so now, when this is being recorded, it's actually 10:30 on Tuesday evening instead of about 4:30 or 5 o'clock as I had originally intended. That's okay. On with the show, so to speak. We're going to go over a few things about Dostoevsky's Grand Inquisitor, and then these two links that actually was supposed to be one link that makes up today's lecture uh, is going to be combined with another link, which is a dramatization of the Grand Inquisitor. And so you'll need to watch all three of those videos, all three of those links, in order to complete today's class. Today meaning Wednesday, January 28th, 2026. So, about the Grand Inquisitor. I've already explained to you that Ivan is trying to give Alyosha, his younger brother, some idea of what he thinks the explanation for evil is, why there is evil in the world. And basically, Alyosha is sort of laying the blame, or not Alyosha, Ivan is sort of laying the blame on freedom, the freedom that we were given when we were created. So the story that Ivan tells Alyosha is the story of Christ reappearing on earth 15 centuries after the Ascension during the Inquisition in Spain. So, and again, we went over this a little bit on Friday, Christ comes onto the scene very quietly, and the Grand Inquisitor, who's on his day off, he's not in his fancy robes and everything, observes this coming onto the scene. He observes Christ raising a little girl from the dead, and he points his finger at Christ, and his soldiers know that means take him into custody and put him in prison. So that night, after everything's dark, the Grand Inquisitor himself comes to visit Christ in prison. And he asks him pretty pointedly, why have you come back now? You handed the work over to us, and we're doing a better job of what you came to do than what you were doing. And so he asks Christ the very pointed question, why have you come to hinder us? Now, the overall structure of the Grand Inquisitor, the story that Ivan is telling to Alyosha, takes place in the context of the three temptations of Christ that he experienced in the desert before he began his public ministry. So you need to know what those three temptations are. Christ had gone into the desert. He had fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. He was hungry, thirsty, tired, as you might expect. And Satan comes to visit him. And the first thing that Satan says is, why don't you just turn these stones into bread? You're hungry. Well, you're God, you can work a miracle. Just turn these stones into bread. And Christ, of course, refuses. The second temptation that Satan throws at Christ is, well, look, I'm going to take you up to this high parapet, this big cliff, and you jump off, but you won't fall. You won't fall to the ground and die because angels will catch you. And Christ refuses that as well. He's not going to, as he says, put God to the test. So then the third temptation that Satan throws at Christ is, look, I'm going to take you up on this high mountain and show you all the kingdoms of the world, and all you have to do in order to rule all these kingdoms is to fall down and worship me, Satan. Well, this, of course, is also refused by Christ. The pivot here, the main idea is that we're free as human beings. And so we don't need necessarily to see God work miracles on his own behalf. We don't need to see God jump off of a cliff and angels catch him. We don't need to be ruled by a ruler. We need to exercise our own freedom to find our own salvation, to find our own way to heaven. So the Grand Inquisitor here is pointing out to Christ, what Christ already knows obviously, is the dilemma of freedom, which I mentioned to you in class on Friday. And freedom is a dilemma because with freedom you can do the greatest good, and with freedom you can do the greatest evil. So the Grand Inquisitor claims that the Church has done a better job of bringing people to salvation because they have given them what they need. They need bread. They need to eat. They need solutions to their problems. They need practical help, which Christ in the Church, which the Church which he founded, doesn't really give. It doesn't give people everything that they need in order to live. It gives them, in fact, the freedom to make the right choices. So according to the Grand Inquisitor, freedom has actually led people in the wrong direction. And they, the Grand Inquisitor and his view of the Church, has corrected the work of Christ. They've done so, and you'll notice these three words in the Grand Inquisitor: miracle, mystery, and authority. One of the things that you notice is that Christ never worked a miracle for his own benefit. So the Grand Inquisitor continues to question Christ as to why he's come back and so forth. And at the end of it, at the end of the Grand Inquisitor, Alyosha is questioning Ivan as to exactly how he thinks this is an explanation for evil in the world. So let me just point out a few page numbers to you to hopefully make this this little excerpt here make a little bit more sense. The introductory part of what Ivan is saying takes place in pages 231 to 238. The first temptation, stones into bread, takes place from 239 to 242. The second temptation, jump off the cliff and the angels catch you, takes place from 242 to 245. The third temptation goes from about, and that's ruling the whole world as long as you will worship Satan, takes place from 245 to page 246. The pages 246 to 248 are kind of a summary of what Ivan has been telling to Alyosha. At the end of the Grand Inquisitor sort of venting or railing against Christ as he's sitting silently listening to him in the prison, Christ walks up to the Grand Inquisitor, and as you'll notice, I'll tell you where it says this. Hold on. At the bottom of page 251, it says, "The old man," meaning the Grand Inquisitor, "longed for him," meaning Christ, "to say something. But," what happened? "Christ suddenly approached the old man in silence and softly kissed him on his bloodless, aged lips." That was all his answer. So as Alyosha and Ivan are sort of discussing after all of this is over, and it's time for Alyosha to take his leave and return to the monastery, he's saying goodbye to Ivan, probably won't see him again, and so Alyosha walks up to Ivan and kisses him on the lips. So there are two kisses, and you can reflect on what the meaning of the two kisses are. You can also reflect on the meaning of the kiss in relation to who is the only person recorded as having kissed Christ in the Gospels, and when did he do it, and why did he do it. So in a sense there are three, but really the two that we're concerned with is the kiss of Christ to the Grand Inquisitor and the kiss of Alyosha to Ivan at the end. Of course, Ivan takes great delight in the kiss. He says, "Oh, that's plagiarism, you're cheating, you're making fun of me," or whatever. but he's laughing about it. He's not upset about it or anything like that. So the most important thing is to read the Grand Inquisitor, and to read it more than once, to read at least parts of it more than once, and to listen to the link that I'm going to send along with the email, in which you'll have the 2 links here with the lecture. Listen carefully to that link, that dramatization. It's very well done, and you will get a really good idea of what's going on in this. Okay, everybody, that's about, or however long we went, 10, 11, 12 minutes altogether in both lectures. I hope to see you on Friday. Please watch these videos. This is our online class.